Have you ever found yourself, caught in that relentless pursuit of something? That feeling of a truly happy, healthy, and, well, deeply fulfilling life?
Mm.
We often chase fleeting trends or external validations, material successes maybe, only to find ourselves still searching.
Right, still feeling like something's missing.
Exactly. But what if the profound answers, the genuine, let's say, prescription for well-being, aren't really new discoveries? What if they're timeless truths available for centuries, maybe just waiting for us to rediscover them in ancient wisdom?
That's a fascinating thought.
Well, today we're embarking on a pretty profound deep dive into exactly that. We're exploring a fascinating source that unpacks the powerful, transformative verses of Surah Al-Kahf. These insights were actually generously provided by you, our listener, through a recent, incredibly insightful discussion from an expert.
Yeah, and our mission with this deep dive really is to explore how these ancient texts are far from just abstract spiritual concepts.
Right.
Instead, they offer a vital, practical prescription, as you called it, for living a healthy, happy, and truly fulfilling life. And importantly, not just in some distant future, but profoundly right here, right now.
That's the key part, isn't it? The here and now.
Absolutely. By the end of our conversation today, you'll hopefully gain a richer, more actionable understanding of some fundamental human needs. We're talking about concepts like trust, what righteous actions truly mean, and the profound art of beautiful deeds.
Beautiful deeds, I like that.
Yeah, and you'll discover how these aren't merely theoretical ideals, but practical, actionable keys. Keys to building your own personal heaven in your daily life. And at the same time, you'll gain the clarity to recognize and hopefully avoid the seductive pitfalls of superficial success that so often distract us.
That's a big promise.
Well, it's about transforming profound information into actionable insights, things that can directly enhance your personal well-being and maybe even foster deeper harmony in your community. We aim to explore these concepts with, a warm, sincere approach, but always maintaining academic rigor, making sure even complex ideas feel accessible and deeply relevant to your everyday experience.
Okay, fantastic. Before we jump into this incredible deep dive, we'd really appreciate it if you support us by subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us keep these conversations going.
All right, so to truly grasp the depth of Surah Al-Kahf and the rich insights our source material offers, it actually invites us to first revisit a foundational starting point, something many of you, our listeners, are likely deeply familiar with. The opening verses of the Fatiha, the very first chapter of the Quran.
The opening. Yeah, and while it's often recited as a prayer, our source illuminates it as something, well, far more profound. It describes the Fatiha as an asalam, which translates roughly as an opening, a profound invitation to gain an entirely new perspective, to literally step into a new, more aligned reality.
And that reframing, seeing Fatiha as an asalam, an opening, is absolutely crucial. Its core insight lies in its profound recognition of God as the sole, ultimate power and authority in existence.
Okay. The soul power.
Yes. And this isn't just about an abstract declaration of faith, it's about firmly grounding oneself in a profound reality. It means understanding at a fundamental level that all other perceived powers, whether they're human leaders, economic systems, societal trends, whatever, they're ultimately transient. They're temporary, human-made.
Right, they come and go.
Exactly. They derive any power they might seem to have from the ultimate singular source. Our ancestors, recognizing this deep, empowering principle, actually made it a tradition to begin all significant gatherings, formal meetings, important conferences, even their daily prayers, by reciting the Fatiha.
Not just a ritual, then.
Not at all. It was a deeply ingrained practical application, a way of setting the intention for any endeavor. It was their way of opening themselves up, creating that as-salam, to a perspective that truly acknowledged the ultimate source of power and guidance. It allowed them to reject the illusion of other, lesser powers and embrace the singular, true power that orchestrates all existence.
Wow. Imagine starting every important decision, every new project, every conversation, with that deep sense of grounding, connecting to the one unwavering truth.
How might that change the outcome? The intention, the very energy you bring to it. It's a powerful practice.
It really is, not just a prayer, but a fundamental opening to a new way of seeing and living, anchoring oneself in the ultimate reality. And this idea of alignment, it leads us directly into the reminders from the earlier verses of Surah Al-Kahf, specifically verses 27-29.
Right, the preceding verses.
Yeah, and the central theme that emerges here is Tilavet. Now, for those familiar with these texts, Tilavet is often understood as, the beautiful act of reciting or chanting the Quran.
That's the common understanding, yes.
But the source material challenges us to understand it in a much deeper, more dynamic, and frankly more demanding way.
Absolutely. Tilbit isn't just recitation in this context. It signifies a conscious act of following and being in complete harmony with the universal laws that God has established throughout the cosmos.
Following the laws.
Think of it not just as written scripture, but as the intricate universal system, the natural laws that govern all of existence, from the movement of planets to the growth of a single seed. And crucially, it refers to the individual's inherent responsibility within this vast interconnected ecosystem.
So our role within that system.
Precisely. Our existence as individuals, then, isn't about arbitrary actions driven by fleeting desires. Instead, it's about actively upholding and protecting this universal system, consciously fulfilling our responsibilities within it.
That sounds like a heavy responsibility.
It is. And the source emphasizes the profound seriousness of this existence. Think about it. If these universal laws, the laws of physics, biology, morality, justice, were subject to arbitrary change, human life itself would be random, chaotic. It would lack any foundation or meaning. It'd be, in a sense, illegitimate.
It makes sense. Chaos.
Right. The immutability of these laws, their unchangeable, steadfast nature, implies a deep seriousness, sincerity, and unwavering steadfastness in our adherence to them. This then becomes our fundamental human duty.
Our duty to align with these unchangeable laws.
Yes, and it's within this profound framework, the Quran, particularly these verses, offers what the source calls a divine reset, or a direct, comprehensive prescription for daily life, a clear, practical guide to living healthily, happily, and in a state of true peace and prosperity. It's essentially a blueprint for flourishing.
A blueprint for flourishing. I like that. So it's a comprehensive guide, not just abstract theology or ritual. But the source doesn't just offer guidance, it also gives a pretty strong warning, doesn't it? Against associating with certain types of people.
It does. A very strong warning. It cautions against those who follow their whims. The text uses the term hevasina tabiolan, those who are excessive in their actions or have, drifted far from these universal divine principles.
Okay, so steer clear of those following just their whims.
Indeed. The text asserts pretty starkly that aligning yourself with such individuals, allowing their influence to shape your path and decisions, ultimately leads to creating your own hell.
Wow. Your own hell. That's strong language.
It is, and the source emphasizes this isn't some distant future punishment. It's a lived experience of internal conflict, pervasive disharmony, and a deep sense of unfulfillment right here, right now, in this very life.
So a present-day hell.
Exactly. And this brings us to a really crucial statement from the text, Hak Reben is Dandir, which powerfully translates to, truth is from your Lord.
Truth is from your Lord.
Yes, this is a fundamental assertion. It proclaims that while people might search for truth in countless places, through endless philosophies, fleeting trends, the loudest voices, you name it, the ultimate, foundational, and unwavering source of truth is divine.
That provides a solid anchor.
It provides an unshakable bedrock for every action, every decision, every value we choose to embrace. And the source explicitly warns that a failure to adhere to this truth inevitably leads to fire or these hellish outcomes, even in this very life.
Like the consequence of building on a shaky foundation.
Precisely. Consider someone who builds their entire life on, say, dishonesty, manipulation, or just pure superficiality. Despite how things might look on the outside, their internal world is likely a constant battleground of anxiety and fear, a kind of internal fire.
Okay. So what's the takeaway for us, for the listener?
Well, it translates into a powerful call to action, to critically evaluate your friends, your associations, your relationships. Are they grounded in this profound, unwavering reality, this divine truth? Or are they built upon temporary, superficial, or ultimately unfulfilling desires?
That requires some honest assessment.
It does. It's about choosing your inner circle wisely, based on principles that lead to peace and truth, not just fleeting fancies that ultimately leave you empty. And importantly, this isn't about judging others, but about protecting your own internal state, your own peace.
Okay, that sets a very clear and profound foundation for understanding the path to a meaningful existence. So, with that in mind, let's turn our attention now to Surah Al-Kahf, verse 30. It promises an incredible reward for those who walk this path. It says, "Indeed, those who have believed and done righteous deeds indeed, we will not allow to be lost the reward of any who did well in deeds."
A powerful promise.
It really is. And this verse immediately brings up two core concepts. They're frequently discussed, yet as our source emphasizes, they always seem to offer new perspectives. Iman, often translated as belief,
Right.
and Salih Amel, typically understood as righteous deeds. So what's the most impactful reinterpretation of Iman that the source brings forward? Something that might challenge our conventional understanding.
That's an excellent question because while Ayman is commonly understood as, abstract belief or faith, our source really compels us to look beyond that. It redefines Ayman not merely as a mental agreement, but as something far more concrete and foundational. Given.
Guvin, which means
It encompasses trust, security, and being in a state of safety. This interpretation is incredibly impactful, especially when you ground it in real-world examples that illustrate its profound absence.
okay, like what?
Well, the source points directly to the recent devastating earthquake in Turkey, a tragedy that brought the concept of güven, trust and safety, to the absolute forefront of daily life in such a visceral, painful way.
Ah, yes. I see the connection.
Consider this. The event starkly illustrated how a fundamental lack of trust emerged when buildings collapsed. Buildings constructed without adherence to legal standards, or even worse, with illegally cut columns just to create more commercial space.
Cutting corners with fatal consequences.
Exactly. And this wasn't just a physical collapse, it was a devastating breakdown of trust. Trust between builders and the codes they were supposed to follow, trust between authorities and their responsibility to enforce those codes, and most tragically, trust between the inhabitants and the very structures they believed would protect them.
A complete erosion of Gufin.
In the psychological impact, it extended far beyond the immediate disaster zone. It created widespread anxiety and insecurity for millions, causing people everywhere to question, is my own home safe? Are the places I live and work built with integrity? Can I fundamentally trust the systems around me?
That fear is palpable.
It is, and this experience powerfully highlights a foundational human need, one that connects directly to Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Yeah.
the absolute necessity of safety and security. Without this basic güven, this profound sense of trust in one's environment, in the systems, and ultimately in the divine order, humans simply cannot progress. You can't get to higher needs like belonging, esteem, or self-actualization if you're constantly worried about the roof collapsing.
You're stuck in survival mode.
Exactly. Stuck in fear and uncertainty. So, to achieve this fundamental state of trust, this Iman, as Güven, the source explains, means aligning one's actions, intentions, and even one's very being with God's universal values and laws. It's a trust that isn't just declared or believed in abstractly, but earned through consistent adherence to truth and integrity.
So it's an active state, not passive belief.
Precisely. It means living in a way that creates trust, both within yourself and in your environment.
Okay, so Iman isn't just something we believe in, but something we experience and actively build through trust and safety. That's a very practical connection. So if Iman is entering this state of trust, what then is Saleh Amel? The source goes beyond just calling them good deeds, right? Interpreting them as actions that lead to sulh, peace, reconciliation, constructive outcomes. That sounds like an active, ongoing process, too.
It is, exactly. Salih Amel isn't about performing a list of isolated good acts or merely ticking boxes on a list of rules. It's about a fundamental orientation of your being.
An orientation. How so?
It's about evaluating every situation and interaction in your life, whether it's in your personal relationships, your work environment, your neighborhood interactions, even your engagement with society, by asking a critical guiding question. Which choice here leads to suh?
Suh, peace, and reconciliation.
Yes, which action fosters peace, reconciliation, and constructive resolution? Which path avoids conflict and division and instead builds unity and healing? When individuals consistently act in this way, driven by the intention to create peace and harmony, the divine promise is clear. Their reward will not be lost.
Their effort bears fruit.
Exactly. Think of it like this. If Iman is the act of entering into that profound state of trust with the divine, recognizing the universe operates on just and trustworthy laws, then Salih Amel is the active, consistent embodiment of that trust.
Putting the trust into action.
Precisely. It means consciously producing actions that build, unify, revive, and heal, rather than destroying, dividing, or causing harm. This interpretation, you see, prevents these profound spiritual concepts from becoming detached or abstract.
Right, keeps them grounded.
It firmly roots them in the tangible realities of daily life, making them directly applicable to every decision you make, every word you utter, every project you undertake. And the source also makes a crucial point about the relationship between Iman and Salih Amel.
Oh, what's that?
It states they are an inseparable whole. They complement each other.
Yeah.
You cannot truly claim Iman, that state of trust, if your Amel, your actions, are destructive or divisive. If you act in a way that undermines trust, that destroys harmony, or that divides people, it's a clear sign you haven't truly entered that state of profound trust and security.
They have to go together.
They're two sides of the same coin. True trust leads to peaceful action, and peaceful action strengthens trust. It's a virtuous cycle.
That connection between trust and peaceful action, that virtuous cycle, really clarifies the first part of the verse. Now, the next part introduces asanamel, literally the most beautiful deed or perfecting deeds. This takes the concept of action to, well, another level entirely. We often think of good deeds, but beautiful deeds. What's the origin and the deeper meaning behind asan?
Yeah, ahsan is a fascinating word. It's deeply rooted in the Arabic word husn, which simply means beauty.
Hus.
Beauty, okay.
And it's also closely related to ihsan, which signifies excellence, beneficence, or doing things in the best possible way with the highest quality and intention. These aren't unfamiliar terms, actually, especially in Turkish culture. You see them in phrases like husnuzan, meaning holding a good opinion of others. Right, assuming the best. Or husnuhat, which refers to beautiful calligraphy, an art form where every single stroke is precisely placed for aesthetic perfection.
Ah, the art of beautiful writing. Exactly. So the core meaning of asanamel is about beautifying one's deeds, making them excellent, striving for the best possible outcome in every single situation, not just an acceptable one.
Not just getting it done, but doing it beautifully.
Precisely. It implies an internal drive, a profound commitment to make things better, more beautiful, and more complete in every aspect of your life. It's about approaching every task, no matter how small or mundane, writing an email, preparing a meal, resolving a disagreement with a spirit of perfection, aesthetic consideration, and a deep sense of purpose. It's about not just doing what is required, but doing it with an artistry that elevates the action itself.
So it's not just about doing good, but doing good beautifully and with excellence, almost like an artistic approach to living. And you mentioned this connects to a divine mandate, a command to beautify.
Absolutely. This isn't merely some aspirational ideal we can choose to aim for or not. The source argues it's a profound responsibility rooted in the very nature of creation itself. It references Surah Asaja, verse 7, which says, "He who made everything, he created good," asan, or beautiful. If God created everything in existence with inherent beauty, goodness, and perfect order, then our fundamental responsibility as His creation is to recognize that beauty, to preserve it, and to actively contribute to its beautification.
So we're reflecting the Creator's act of beautification.
In a way, yes. And this translates to an everyday imperative. It's a constant call to approach every problem, every challenge, every interaction, whether it's designing a building, writing a report, having that difficult conversation with a family member, or even just organizing your own thoughts with the question, how can I make this more beautiful? How can I achieve a better, more harmonious, more excellent outcome here?
Asking, how can I beautify this? That changes the whole approach.
It really does. And while ihsan can sometimes be perceived as going above and beyond what is merely required, doing more than your obligated duties, the source clarifies that it is, in fact, fundamental.
Not optional.
Not optional. It points to common phrases heard in Friday sermons, where it's explicitly stated that God commands justice and ihsan.
Justice and ihsan, both are commanded.
Exactly. This powerfully emphasizes that God demands not only that we act justly in all our dealings, but also that we always strive for beautification and excellence. It's an integral, non-negotiable part of living in alignment with divine principles. It's about raising the bar for our own conduct, not just meeting some minimum standard.
It's the difference between doing a job and crafting something exceptional.
Beautifully put. Doing it with care, consideration, and aiming for the best possible form.
That's a fascinating perspective, making excellence and beauty a divine command. And this concept of ihsan in practice, it isn't limited to just individual actions, is it? The source argues it extends even to how states and nations interact. That seems like a monumental leap.
It does seem like a leap, but it's a crucial point the source makes, really demonstrating the universal applicability of these principles. This principle of ihsan, of beautification and excellence, applies even at the highest levels, like in international relations and diplomacy.
Okay, how would that work?
Well, consider the stark contrast between the common principle of mutability et reciprocity, where you might respond in kind, even with aggression.
Tit for tat.
Exactly, tit for tat. And contrast that with the ihsan approach. For instance, if one state commits a harmful or aggressive action against another under mutability, the injured state might feel justified in retaliating with similar force, believing it's a fair response. But this often just leads to escalating cycles of conflict, doesn't it?
Yeah, things spiral downwards quickly.
Right. However, a state guided by Isan would instead ask, okay, given this negative action, how can we beautify the situation? How can we create a better, more constructive, more peaceful environment, even in the face of this provocation?
That requires incredible restraint and wisdom.
It does. It isn't about weakness or appeasement. It's a strategic, long-term approach rooted in higher principles. It's an approach that would task experts, sociologists, psychologists, pedagogues, politicians, economists, with devising creative, intelligent strategies that ultimately lead to human happiness and uphold the fundamental command not to kill, to preserve life, and to foster peace. This is what true statesmanship, true siyasat, in its most beautiful and enlightened form, should embody, according to the source.
Breaking negative cycles, initiating positive one.
Precisely. And bring it right down to the personal level. This means that in every transaction, every interaction, whether you're a teacher dealing with a challenging student, a parent trying to resolve a conflict with a child, a neighbor interacting with another, even how you manage your personal finances, we should instinctively ask, how can I make this situation better or more beautiful? How can I bring grace and excellence to this moment?
Turning every moment into an opportunity for Isan.
Yes. It transforms every moment into an opportunity for positive creation and personal growth.
Yeah.
And the source concludes this section with a really powerful quote attributed to Hirsch, which beautifully encapsulates this profound idea.
What does it say?
He said, people gain value according to how they perform their work with Isan. Excellence beautification.
Wow. Value comes from the quality and beauty of the work.
Exactly. It directly links your personal worth, your true value, not to external appearances or money or status, but to the quality, the intention, and the beautifying impact of your actions. It's about cultivating an inner excellence that inevitably manifests outwardly, making you a source of beauty and positive change in the world.
That connection between inner excellence, outer value, and even national policy, it's truly profound and expansive. Now, as we move to Surah Al-Kehf, verse 31, the text describes the reward for those who commit to these peace-building, Salih Amel, and beautifying deeds, Asan Amel. It mentions gardens with flowing rivers adorned with gold bracelets, wearing fine silks, reclining on couches.
The classic imagery.
Right, this sounds like a quintessential, perhaps even a very traditional image of heaven or Senate.
It absolutely does. And traditionally, Senate, or heaven, is almost exclusively viewed as an afterlife reward, isn't it?
Yeah.
A distant promise to be fulfilled after this life is over.
That's how it's usually presented, yeah.
However, our source challenges this conventional view in a truly thought-provoking way. It argues that these rich descriptions also reflect the state of happiness and profound peace that absolutely begins in this life.
Begins now, not just later.
Exactly. It's not just a future promise. It's presented as an immediate fulfillment for those who live by these principles of trust, peace, and beautification. Let's maybe break down that imagery a bit to see how it applies here and now.
Okay, let's do that. The rivers.
The rivers could symbolize a continuous vitality and flow in one's life, an unending stream of positive energy, creativity, spiritual nourishment. It means your life isn't stagnant, but constantly renewing, vibrant, productive.
Life force, constantly flowing. Makes sense. What about the adornments, the gold bracelets, the silk?
Well, the adornments and jewelry, like gold bracelets, could represent the immense internal value and external respect one gains in society. This isn't about mere material wealth, though.
Not literal gold.
No, it's about becoming, as the source puts it, finger-pointed as a role model. Someone people naturally look up to, trust, and seek guidance from because their actions radiate integrity and wisdom. They are adorned by their character and contributions, not just by what they wear. Their actions are their jewels.
Adorned by character. I like that. And reclining on couches.
That signifies a deep state of inner peace and contentment, a profound sense of ease, security, and belonging, free from internal conflict and anxiety, just being at peace with oneself and the world.
So this whole state described, it's achievable now.
The source argues yes. It encompasses profound inner peace, deep harmony with one's surroundings and relationships, and the deep satisfaction of being a valued, contributing member of society. This inherent value is the true ornament. And this internal heaven isn't seen as limited by death. It extends beyond it, forming a beautiful continuum, a life well lived in every dimension, starting now.
Wow. That's a radical yet incredibly logical reinterpretation. It really makes so much sense when you put it that way. If these principles lead to happiness in the afterlife, why wouldn't they make you happy now? It brings the sacred right into the everyday.
Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. The source makes this provocative yet utterly logical point. If the principles lead to happiness in the afterlife, why wouldn't they make you happy now? The logic is crystal clear. The very same principles that secure future happiness must, by their very nature, yield positive results in the present.
The cause should produce the effect now, too.
Precisely. If one truly lives by principles of profound trust, iman, as given, of consistent peace-building, sali amo, and of constant beautification, asan amel, in all their actions, they are, in essence, actively creating their own heaven here and now.
Can you give some concrete examples of that present heaven?
Sure. Think about it in relatable terms. Such a person becomes a truly trusted individual. They foster an environment of trust wherever they go, in their family, at work, in their community. Their word is their bond.
That alone brings a lot of peace.
It does. They are productive and engaged, avoiding idleness because they understand the purpose and value of their actions. They don't just exist, they contribute meaningfully. They build a home life filled with peace, joy, and mutual respect with their family, a true sanctuary. And crucially, they find an inherent contentment in simple things. They don't need external adornments or lavish possessions because their inner richness, their integrity, their peace, their beautiful actions is their true silk, their true wealth.
Inner richness as the true silk.
Yeah, the source wisely states, the poor person is not one who has little wealth, but one who has many desires. This inner richness, this state of deep contentment and peace, is the true heaven, accessible regardless of your bank account. It's a profound shift in focus from what you have to who you are.
Okay, but conversely then, this implies a very real Gehenna, or hell, in this life as well, doesn't it? Regardless of outward circumstances, that's a powerful and challenging idea to consider.
It is, precisely. It's the stark inverse. The source argues that those who possess immense material wealth, the luxurious homes, sprawling gardens, all the external markers of success that society often reveres, but fundamentally lack trust in God's universal laws, are destructive in their actions and consistently fail to beautify their interactions, while they are in fact living in a profound hell right now.
A hell behind the gilded cage.
You could say that. This isn't about physical torment or external fire. It's a state of constant internal conflict, pervasive anxiety, deep-seated unhappiness, and a profound sense of emptiness, regardless of their opulent outward appearances. It's a self-imposed prison of their own making.
So the external paradise can hide an internal hell.
Absolutely. And the source encourages a profound level of self-accountability here. If you find your home life, your relationships, or your overall existence is not a heaven, if it's filled with tension, anxiety, or unfulfillment, you are urged to turn inward. Honestly, examine your own actions.
You ask the hard questions.
Yes, ask yourself, am I being constructive in my relationships and my work? Am I failing to build peace and harmony? Am I failing to beautify my interactions, to bring excellence and grace to my daily conduct?
Taking responsibility for our own state.
Exactly. And here's the truly empowering part. The source suggests that even if others around you do not align with these principles, even if the world around you seems chaotic or unjust, one who adheres to them will still experience their own heaven.
Really? Even if others aren't cooperating?
That's the argument. Your peace and happiness are not ultimately contingent on others' actions or external circumstances, but primarily on your own unwavering commitment to these divine principles. It's a powerful message of personal responsibility and agency. You control your inner state through your adherence to truth.
That places so much responsibility on the individual, which is incredibly empowering, but like you said, also challenging. And a major pitfall seems to be what the source calls thul emel. You mentioned it earlier, excessive ambition, greed. It's like a disease, you called it.
Indeed, thul emel represents a significant, deeply ingrained human tendency towards excessive and endless desires. It's the relentless accumulation of wealth, status, or power, and an all-consuming preoccupation with material possessions, often to the exclusion of everything else that matters.
Getting lost in the accumulation.
Yes, and this pervasive disease of materialism leads to a profound forgetfulness, forgetting the ultimate power of God, forgetting the immutable universal laws we just discussed, and forgetting our own transient nature, our own mortality.
Even when faced with stark reminders.
Astonishingly, yes. This forgetfulness can persist even in the face of undeniable reminders like devastating earthquakes that flatten cities in seconds or global pandemics that sweep across the world, highlighting the fragility of human life and material possessions. People witness immense destruction, loss, suffering, yet the relentless drive to accumulate often persists, as if these cosmic wake-up calls have no bearing on their personal choices or values.
It's a powerful delusion.
It is. The prescription, however, is clear and consistently reiterated throughout these texts. God's principles are as fixed and clear as physical laws. They are immutable and unwavering. Living by them ensures a definite wage or reward, a profound state of happiness and peace, not just in the afterlife, but crucially here and now.
Like cause and effect.
Exactly. The source says it's as certain as cause and effect in the physical world. If you plant a seed in fertile ground and provide the right conditions, water, sunlight, it will grow. Similarly, if you cultivate trust, peace, and beauty in your life, happiness and contentment will inevitably follow. It's a law.
So the solution to unhappiness lies within that framework.
That's the proposition. If you find yourself in a state of unhappiness, persistent stress, overwhelming anxiety, or deep depression, the immediate, most effective solution proposed is to look within. Ask yourself those tough questions again. Am I failing to build peace, soul, in my interactions in my inner world? Am I failing to beautify, I saw in my actions and intentions, approaching life with excellence and grace? This honest internal reflection is presented as the most effective and direct way to find lasting solutions and fundamentally transform your current reality.
Being your own doctor for the soul, as you said.
Precisely. The remedy lies in aligning with these timeless principles.
That clarity on present heaven and hell and the profound self-reflection it encourages is incredibly insightful. Now, the source moves into a vivid parable in Surah Al-Kahf, verses 32 to 34, which really brings these concepts to life in a narrative form. The story of two lush gardens. It paints such a clear picture of material success, doesn't it?
It really does. This parable paints a truly vivid and evocative picture. Two magnificent gardens just overflowing with grapes, date palms, surrounded by a meticulous cultivation, and there's even a river flowing right through them, signifying boundless bounty and prosperity.
The image of paradise on earth.
Exactly, a true paradise on earth. But what's crucial here, and powerfully emphasized by the source, is the explicit detail of God's direct involvement in creating this abundance. The text says, "We did this, we surrounded them, we caused to gush forth a river."
So it wasn't just the owner's doing.
Not at all. This highlights a fundamental truth.
Yeah.
While human effort, planting, cultivating, working the land is undoubtedly necessary and it's our responsibility, it is ultimately God's universal laws. The fertile soil, the nurturing air, the consistent water cycles, the life-giving sun's energy, the gentle wind that bring the seed to fruition.
We play a part, but the system does the heavy lifting.
Exactly. The human contribution, when you view it in this grander cosmic context, is remarkably minimal compared to the overarching divine system that enables all growth and life. We are stewards, maybe gardeners, but definitely not the ultimate creators.
Stewards, not creators. That's a key distinction.
And the source reiterates a vital promise here, linked to divine justice. God never unjustly diminishes or withholds the reward for effort, even from those who are ungrateful or who don't acknowledge him.
Even if they don't believe.
Even then. If the work is done according to the universal laws, if the seed is planted properly, watered, given light, the results will unfailingly follow. The text explicitly says about the gardens, neither of them failed to produce its harvest in the least, meaning they yielded their fruit in full, precisely as intended by the divine laws governing them.
The system works regardless of the person's belief.
It's a testament to the unwavering justice and consistency of the divine system. The laws operate for everyone.
Okay, that's a powerful reminder of divine agency and justice, even in seemingly mundane processes like agriculture. But then the human element comes in, and not in a good way. The owner of one of these magnificent gardens, despite all this bounty, all this evidence of divine blessing, falls prey to what the source calls the N, or the I'm disease.
Ah, yes, the N disease.
He declares to his friend, "I am more powerful than you in wealth and more mighty in respect to retainers, or followers, servants." This is such a common human failing, isn't it, that arrogance?
It is tragically common. This I me mentality, this N disease, is indeed presented as a fundamental human ailment, a deep-seated spiritual sickness. It's that profound tendency to attribute all success, all power, all accomplishments solely to oneself.
Forgetting everything else.
Completely. To see one's own power as inherent and absolute, ignoring one's profound limitations, ignoring the contributions of others, and most importantly, ignoring the overarching divine laws and systems that enable everything. This man looks at his lavish gardens and thinks, "I did this." He attributes their existence solely to his own prowess, his own hard work, his own ingenuity, completely forgetting the sun, the rain, the soil, the river God provided, even the very breath he takes.
Blinded by his own reflection.
Totally. And the consequences of this arrogance are far-reaching and destructive. Firstly, as the source points out, it creates self-imposed limits. This I mentality prevents you from seeing other alternatives, other perspectives. It closes you off to the divine laws and your inherent responsibilities towards them. You become rigid, stuck in your own narrative.
Trapped by the I.
Exactly. Secondly, it leads to superficial and frankly fake relationships. Value gets placed solely on what others can provide economically, socially, or in terms of influence, rather than on genuine connection, shared values, or mutual respect.
Using people.
Essentially, yes. This builds a fake world and, crucially, fake friendships that inevitably crumble the moment the economic or social utility disappears, or when real challenges arise, because the foundation wasn't real.
Because it was built on, what can you do for me?
Precisely. And the source directly connects this to contemporary society, where people are tragically often valued primarily by their economic contributions, their net worth, or their professional title. It even mentions a harsh saying, Perazaz Adam, Garrix's Adam, a man without money is a useless man.
Oof, that's bleak.
It's bleak, and it painfully illustrates this modern disease, highlighting a profound societal devaluation of human worth beyond mere financial utility. It strips away the inherent dignity of every individual, regardless of their material circumstances.
That's a stark reflection on modern values, where external success often dictates perceived worth. So if this I-me disease is so prevalent, how can we, the listeners, how can we assess ourselves and maybe determine our true measure of value, especially when society bombards us with such different signals?
Yeah, that's the critical question. It calls for a crucial internal reflection, a profound act of self-assessment that often goes against the current of societal norms. You have to ask yourself, do I assess others? And perhaps even more importantly, do I assess myself based on fleeting external indicators like wealth, status, career achievements, or superficial connections?
Sure.
Or do I base my evaluations on truth, reality, and genuine character, on their adherence to principles like trust and peace and beauty? The source challenges those prevalent societal norms head-on. Instead of asking someone, as is so common today, how many apartments did you acquire, or what's your net worth?
The standard markers of success.
Right. We should perhaps be asking different questions. What true value did you create in the world? How many students did you genuinely educate? How many lives did you touch positively? What did you do to advance society morally, to contribute to the collective good, to solve a real problem for humanity?
Shifting the definition of value entirely.
Entirely. Because the cost of focusing solely on these material indicators, on external validation, is profound and devastating. The source suggests that even when surrounded by a multitude of people, even in the most crowded rooms or social circles, if those connections are fake, built on that I-me foundation, one can feel utterly alone.
Alone in a crowd.
Exactly. Leading to deep stress, pervasive anxiety, and debilitating depression. That luxurious external paradise built on arrogance and self-centeredness becomes a living internal hell. You might have everyone around you, but if the connections aren't based on genuine soul, on peace and mutual respect, but only on utility, you're surrounded by fake friends, as the source says. This leads to profound loneliness and a crushing sense of being lost.
So true value isn't what you accumulate.
It's what you cultivate within yourself and contribute genuinely to others. That's the real measure.
That loneliness, even in a crowd of so-called friends, is a powerful and poignant consequence. So what is our collective duty, then, in the face of this I-me disease and the pervasive pursuit of superficial values? It seems like a constant uphill battle sometimes.
It can feel like that, absolutely. But it's a battle we are, according to this perspective, equipped for and actually commanded to undertake.
Yeah.
The source suggests our presence in a particular place in this society at this specific time isn't accidental. It's by divine will and design.
There's a purpose to us being here.
That's the implication.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, our profound responsibility, our inherent duty, is to consciously and diligently work towards beautifying the society we inhabit, using those principles of Isan.
Even if society doesn't seem to value it.
Yes. This duty to do good and to beautify, to consistently practice Isan in every interaction and every contribution remains unwavering, regardless of whether others understand it, appreciate it, or even benefit from it in a way they recognize.
Yeah.
Your obligation, your true calling, is internal.
You do it because it's the right thing to do based on these principles.
Exactly. The source emphasizes that even if this society doesn't understand or reciprocate your efforts, you are commanded to continue. You are accountable for your actions, for striving for beauty and excellence, not for others' reactions or the immediate outcome. It concludes this section by reiterating a powerful prayer, a plea for assistance against negative influences, for steadfastness in purpose, and for the strength to always be among those who beautify their actions and surroundings.
A call to be a consistent force for good and beauty.
Yes. It's a call to remain a consistent, unwavering source of positive, constructive change, no matter the external circumstances or the immediate responses of others. Your value isn't dependent on their recognition, but on your adherence to truth and beauty. Hashtag, tag, tag, outro.
Wow. So what does this all mean for us right here, right now? We've delved pretty deep into some... Yeah, let's try. First, trust is the foundation, not just belief. That Amen is given. It's about grounding yourself not in abstract ideas, but in concrete security and alignment with universal truth.
Right. Build on solid ground.
Second, peaceful actions create your present heaven. Those Sali Amel leading to Sul. Every constructive, unifying action you take brings you closer to inner peace and external harmony, literally building your personal paradise here and now.
Your actions shape your reality.
Third, beautify everything. Your true value lies in excellence. Strive for Ahsan Amel in every aspect of your life, making your deeds excellent and beautiful, because that's where your true worth, your lasting legacy is found.
The pursuit of beauty in action, Ahsan.
And finally, number 4, the Amen mentality leads to hell. True power is in service. That Ain disease is destructive. Recognizing divine agency and humbling ourselves in genuine service to others and to universal laws is the path to genuine strength, profound connection, and lasting contentment.
Humility and service over arrogance.
Exactly. Those seem like the big takeaways.
They are. And maybe a final thought to leave with everyone. If true wealth isn't really about what you own, but about who you are, how you act, and the peace and beauty you cultivate within and around you, what does that really mean for the success metrics we often chase every single day?
That challenges a lot.
How might embracing these ancient principles fundamentally redefine your pursuit of happiness, not just in some distant future, but right now, where you are, in your daily interactions and choices? What small, beautiful act, what act of Ihsan can you commit to today?
And that's a profound thought to sit with. And frankly, here's where it gets really interesting. Join us next time as we continue to unpack even more profound insights from these timeless sources, delving deeper into this incredibly rich narrative.
Looking forward to it.
Me too. And before you go, we'd really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue these deep dives for you. Thanks for joining us.